You're listening to Player Development, a channel focused on the intersection of sports and character growth. Please like and subscribe to support the stories being shared, the growth of our listeners, and to stay up to date with our latest content. Sam Bowman played collegiate basketball at the University of North Georgia as well as at Covenant College. He has demonstrated leadership and teaching qualities on the court, which have translated to coaching and ministry after his collegiate playing career. Sam is outspoken about his struggles with mental health and discusses how sports has provided him with the tools to keep overcoming depression and anxiety on a daily basis.
So, talk to me about your sports and fitness background.
Okay, so I played basketball, a little bit of football and tennis in high school. And then before that, I just grew up playing sports all my life. And then went on after high school, played 1 year of basketball at University of North Georgia. Well, that's what it's called now. When I went there, it was North Georgia College and State University or whatever. Then transferred to Covenant, played 3 years there. And then while I was in college, I started playing volleyball just for fun, kind of as a hobby, recreationally. And then after college, I kind of discovered that I still needed a competitive sports outlet, and I hardly play basketball anymore now, but I have continued playing volleyball competitively, just competing in tournaments and stuff. And that led to me meeting my wife through kind of the volleyball community, and now I'm coaching high school volleyball with her. She's a head coach for a local high school where we live in Georgia. And I'm helping her assistant coach. And along the way, I've done some assistant coaching at the high school level and some head coaching for basketball for middle school teams.
Okay. Great. So you talked about you felt like you still needed that competitive outlet. Why was it so important for you to continue to play sports and to still compete?
I think that it's always been the most healthy escape for me. It's really helped me with my mood, and it's just kind of a balance piece in my life that if it's not there, I just kind of start to drift a little bit. And so something about the structure and just the teamwork of having being involved in competitive sports gives me a drive and something to look forward to. And so, just keeping that going on the weekends. I went to a therapist, and he kind of told me, just listening to my story, he said, Sam, you got to get back in the game. This was a point in my life where I was just really struggling with depression, and one thing that was lacking was just like exercise and like that activity in sport. And he's like, it sounds to me like from your story, like that's always been a part of your life. It's been a healthy part of your life. And you got to get back in the game, whether it's coaching or whether it's playing or whatever. But that's like a really healthy way for you to cope and take care of yourself.
Yeah. And so through all of this time, so you talk about this has been most of your life now that you've been playing sports in some capacity or coaching. What are some habits or traits that you've picked up through your time in sports?
Man, there's been a lot. I think the biggest one probably is just teamwork. And by that, I mean just playing whatever role is needed for the greater good. And I remember on a lot of teams, playing different roles and just learning what I bring to the team and what the team needs and what's the best thing that I can do to help the team succeed and win. That's been one. I think perseverance, and kind of along that, along with perseverance, maybe goes a word resilience or grit. Having like a next play mentality, which I'll actually talk about in the video that I'm going to send you. But and then also just coaching, I think, as sort of like a habit. Like I've become kind of like a coach and a teacher, and I think that obviously has to do with my involvement in sports. Like I've always been, I don't think an annoying player coach. Like you got that guy on the team that's like always trying to tell you what to do, but I've always been like a friendly, peer player that would coach and say like, hey, I've learned this, this will help you out. And, try to extend that. And after I was done playing sports, I discovered that like that was something I really enjoyed, like giving back skills that I've learned. And, that's kind of my greatest joy is seeing the skills that I've learned pass on to other people and getting them to enjoy success and getting to see that because of what, the investment that you make. And I think the last one is, just analysis and strategy. I've always been like a real analytical thinker. And I think sports has taught me that there's a lot of times a smarter way to do things. You can always find a better way to do things and continue to improve the process, that if you're not getting the results that you want, and learned that just through the struggle of working with the team and having to try to win, and I just love that. I mean, I do it in board games, I do it in coaching, I do it at work, and I think that skill was probably mostly learned and sharpened through sports.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your transition from being a player to being a coach. What kinds of things did you have to change about your approach?
That's a great question. It really, to me, coaching is a lot more difficult than playing, because I find myself in so many situations as a coach where I know what to do as a player, but being able to relate that and being able to break that down and see where somebody else is at and teach them what you already know how to do. Those are two totally different things, knowing what to do and then having to teach it to somebody else. So I think the biggest approach has been trying to learn where people are at, and that not every player is on the same level, and not every player receives correction the same way. Not every player is motivated the same way. So I think it's kind of, for me, it's like taking a step back. Like I've had to learn as a coach that as a player, you just kind of, with your teammates as you're coaching them or encouraging them, you just kind of like say whatever. But as a coach, I've had to learn to kind of take a step back and learn who each player on my team is and what motivates them and how I can communicate with them the best. So yeah, I think it's just like a communication and a relation type adjustment that has to take place.
Okay. You have to be a lot more intentional and mindful about what you're saying and how you're saying it.
That is exactly what I was trying to say.
And so, yeah, out of all these habits that you talked about, this analysis, coaching as kind of a habit and a way of life, grit, teamwork, all this stuff, how does this carry over into, or how have you seen it carry over into other parts of your life?
Well, it's been big time. I would say the biggest challenge that I've faced in my life has been post-college, post-team sports, dealing with mental health, with depression and anxiety. It's something that just kind of came and blindsided me. And when it comes to what I learned through resilience and perseverance, I mean, it's been such a valuable lesson to learn those things because I've learned, like through my battle with depression and anxiety, I've learned that battle, that fight, never stops really for me, and so I've learned similar to how it is in sports. Like even if you're in the off season, you never stop working. You keep on working every day. You keep working because you realize if you're not working, then you're regressing. And that's been kind of the same way with just my battle with mental health. I've learned that I've got to persevere every day. I've got to fight because the fight never stops, and so I can't stop fighting. And so I'm really thankful to the lessons that I learned in those lessons that I learned in sports. And then another way too is just the teamwork aspect. The battles that I've won in my mental health has been conquered in community. And the defeats that I've faced have been in isolation. So the more that I've learned to bring teamwork into that struggle and get a team of people around me that care about me, which involves me being vulnerable, asking other people for help, communicating with other people, the more that I do those things, the healthier I become. And those are all aspects of teamwork. I've just kind of discovered that, you know, everybody's got different struggles. And I think for me, this has been like the biggest challenge I've faced, but, there's some struggles that are just designed to be conquered in community and with a team of people. And so for me, it took me a while to translate over that teamwork aspect from sports and apply it to a personal struggle where there's like a big stigma, and it sounds like something that, you know, if I'm struggling with depression, I need to just handle it myself, and I need to just worry about myself and keep it to myself and conquer it myself. And as long as I did that, I just suffered in silence and was unsuccessful in really making up any ground. But as soon as I, you know, brought it into the light and started talking about it, started sharing it with other people, started asking for help from other people, that's when I really started to see a change. So.
Awesome. And so, you know, I'm assuming that, you know, talking about the challenge with mental health and depression, anxiety is kind of what you're building on here. What did it mean for you to go through some of the struggles that you've gone through?
What does it mean? Like, what does it mean? What does it look like?
What's the significance of that in your life story now?
Man, it's really everything for me. I think the main significance, like right now, I'm a youth pastor, so I'm working with kids, and that I always kind of thought that I would end up in some sort of ministry because I really have a heart for people and relationships and just building and investing, discipling other people. But so that calling came early on, but then the struggle with depression came kind of right in the middle before I actually was placed into ministry. And so for me, like what it means is, I think it's really enabled me in a way never before, that I had never before experienced, to be able to connect with people that are broken and that are hurting. And I think just it's totally transformed the way that I think about life, the way that I think about ministering to other people, coaching other people. Like now I'm so very keenly aware that people around me, no matter what they look like on the surface, are probably struggling with demons. And it's because of struggle and my own challenge with that reality of that in my own life, that I now have eyes to see it all around me and be able to, kind of touch and heal some of those needs and some of those struggles that I see people facing around me. So it really is, it's a part of my life every day, for good and for bad,
I hear that. So, final question from me here, and then I'll give you some space if you want to add anything to all of this. What would you tell your players if they're struggling with mental health while they're trying to grow and succeed as athletes at the same time?
Man, that's a great question. I think that I would tell them what other people have told me, and that's that I would encourage them to talk to a professional, to get some counseling or some help, because I really wouldn't have been able to make progress if I had not gone and seen a therapist. And so I think I would just share my own personal story and just my struggle with them, and just let them know, like, hey, you're not alone. This is not abnormal at all. Like, sadly, it's become the norm. And most people are not talking about it because there's a huge stigma associated with mental health. But I would just reiterate kind of what I've already told you, is that, it heals when it's brought out into the light. And so if you can keep the conversation open, if you're struggling with something, hey, let's talk. Let's talk about it. I'm here for you. Let's not pretend like it's not there, because that's going to be the one thing that's going to make it worse. But if we can just talk about it and walk together through it, you're going to make it. We're going to make it together. God won't let you sink down. And there's plenty of other good advice that I could give, but I think ultimately somebody that is in that place that's struggling just needs to know that they're not alone, and that it's safe to talk to you about it if you're the one that's on the receiving end of that conversation. And like, I'm going to be here with you and walk through this with you.